Welcome to this episode of Digital Dialogs with Gururaj and Vinayak Khadye. I'm your host Vinayak Khadye. Before we begin with the podcast, here is a brief introduction of Guru and I. Gururaj Rao is a well-respected professional with more than 2 decades of experience in CXO roles in banking, financial services, and insurance companies in India. I have more than 2 decades of experience in leadership roles in consulting, insurance industry, and also as a founder of a startup in EdTech space. In Digital Dialogues podcast series, Gururaj and I go beyond jargons and buzzwords in the digital world and bring to the fore the true meanings of these terms. We discuss models, methodologies, technologies, architectures, case studies, and challenges and issues associated with digital initiatives which can help you as a decision maker. The need for CDO roles, as we discussed, arose maybe one focus. Organizations needed focus. Second is, the mindset in terms of, dealing with, you know, business as usual, IT landscape vis-a-vis, dealing with uh, a rapidly changing world where, organizations or the function head, needs to bring in, not only the mindset in terms of, trying out new things, but also bring the agile, not necessarily the conventional agile methodology, but agility and speed in its approach, as you said, and also dealing with not just uh, large IT shops, but also innovators. Okay, so that requires a sort of perhaps a different a setup within the technology team. Okay, and that's why probably a separate role in the form of CDO is created. So I think these are some very good points. Okay, as to why there is the need for a CDO role. Now let's look at the role itself. Okay, if you look at the role itself, then like any leadership role, there will be three or four aspects to that role. One is of course the envisioning. So that means what where the external world is going, what technologies are best for you know the company setup, what the business objectives are, and then hence strategizing and envisioning initiatives for the company. That is one part. Second part is of course governance, as you said, and third part, which is very critical, is um, okay. One more part also is in terms of identifying, evaluating technologies, and fourth part then is execution. Okay, so let's say these are the four broad, uh, uh, you know, J, let's say roles that or aspects of the job of the CDO. Now, uh, envisioning and all is fine, but if you look at the execution role, okay, then what do you think? You know, should 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 the execution be left to the CDO itself? So he should be all in control of the execution, or if you have a separate IT and tech function, okay, then you leave the execution to the CTO. So we may have two, options, or let's say two scenarios. One is where CDO is all self-sufficient; he has complete team, and second scenario could be, the focus is purely on envisioning, design, getting things done, and leaving the execution part to the technology team. Because anyway, there is a lot of overlap that you will have in executions, because number of times, as part of your digital initiatives, you may require to integrate, with a lot of the internal existing systems. So in these two scenarios, what do you think can work better for the organization?
See, uh, if we go to the nuts and bolts, it means handling technology solutions, technology assets, technology processes. So I mean, in a very uh, idealistic uh, scenario, want all those activities to be done by those specific teams rather than being split up in
Okay.
multiple places. Okay.
Yes.
Uh, so I would, as I said, I consider the CDO to be more of a transformation agent. So whether it
Yes.
is with regard to envisioning what should be the transformation end state, influencing skills, influencing right at the top levels on how to go about it, what has to be done. So implementing the entire program. Okay. So when you talk about that, and digitalization, as we have said earlier, it has impacts on a lot of things, right? I mean, the products, the service levels, the operations, the processes, everything, right? So when somebody is influencing those functions, similarly, there will be an impact on technology. There may be new solutions, there may be new integrations with legacy systems and all that stuff. So it is something similar to that. I mean, you don't say that because there are role changes or process changes, the CDO takes over the people function. That doesn't happen. You know, then why are we saying that because there's going to be a new app or a new portal or a new services layer, uh, those technology activities, the engineering activities will happen in the digital rather than in the IT? That's the question of duplicating that effort or you know uh, partitioning that effort. I mean, if you keep the people activities in one area, operations activities in one area, product development, marketing in those respective areas, then technology also stays in that respective area. Okay. So, and as I say, as an organization, your overall, picture with regard to the technology performance, the controls, the governance, the standards, everything has to lie in one place. I mean, otherwise, I can tell you very clearly, somebody will say that, oh, my app is working fine, the integration with the core system is not working. Then what is the CEO supposed to do? Sit there and become an arbitrator? Doesn't help, right?
True.
So same way, I mean, if a VAPT, finding is to be resolved, one fellow says that, I will do it in the next 10 days, but another fellow says, no, it's not in my priority for the next 3 months. Just hold on. Again, doesn't work. Okay, so point is that for the CEO, there has to be a single accountable place function. Okay, so CTO has to be responsible for the overall transformation of the organization. The CIO/CTO has to handle the technology aspects of it. Okay. Like as I said, the operations head takes care of the processes, re-engineering and automation and all that stuff. The people function, takes care of the roles, the skills that are required for say creating a digital channel of servicing, digital channel of sales, etc. So similar is the case here. So I believe that people have to segregate the skills, the tasks in a very objective way, rather than just saying, okay, this is convenient, let's put it together. Doesn't
No,
work.
no. So I get your point. What you are saying essentially is that, you know from the accountability perspective, you know since digital and technology, from technology perspective, they're not very different. Essentially, it's all about managing and adopting technology. One is, of course, the conventional technology, The other is, of course, relatively new technology. Okay. So from that perspective, it is better to have, uh, you know, one single
Yeah,
accountable
and
person. Okay.
yeah, and my view is technology is technology. I mean, whether you call it as a digital asset or whether you call it as an enterprise asset doesn't matter. I mean, an app also finally is some software, right? A code which is
Yeah.
being run on some hardware at the end of the day.
Not true, but
So
see what both of us have performed CIO, CTO roles. In our CTO roles or CIO roles, also we've seen
yeah,
that uh, you know i- bulk of our time would go in uh, you know dousing fires, all across the IT landscape. Somewhere some servers are down. Sometimes one was required to escalate to the uh, technology provider, internal business challenges, systems down, CRs are not happening in time, and those kind of things. So from
correct.
that perspective, don't you think that I mean, would it be? I mean, I'll rather ask a open-ended question. Would it be a good idea to relieve, a CDO of these burdens of managing the business business as usual setup, and making sure that they are running?
Which is exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
See, the moment the moment you say that, but from a different angle, yeah. What I'm trying to say here is, for example, if there is an app, right? Typically, people would say, "Oh, it lies under the digital asset," right? The moment it goes live, what do? Then you are making the CDO responsible for the operation of the app.
Mhm.
Oh, the downloads are not happening. If the downloads are happening, then the pages have a problem. Then I mean, there is an there are so many tickets that are open. All that stuff, right? So you need to be clear that is that role focused on BAU or on transformation.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to say. So we should not trap a role into something which is not supposed to be the focus area. Yes, as an
Okay.
organization, you need both the
So
things going. I mean, in
essentially,
today's
more or
BAU
less,
speed, you need to have that.
correct. So essentially, what we are getting to is essentially, it may be a good idea to have two different roles. Okay, CIO, CTO, and CDO on the other hand. CDO is more focused on transformational initiatives within the company, and then CTO CIO role is, of course, focused on business as usual. Okay, and then
Yeah.
of course uh, new things within that domain also would obviously come in to some extent, uh, but only it is in the context of what you're currently managing. But would that so if you have an existing sort of two roles, okay, and two individuals, then obviously do you think that can lead to demotivation of the CIO CTO roles, or people who are performing these roles, because then it is more or less sort of they're subjected to and doing all the dirty work within the technology setup.
Well, I don't know. I mean, see, each role carries its own positives and negatives, right? I mean,
Yeah,
see, let's be very clear. You know, then the most visible role or the role in the limelight is always the sales role, right? I mean,
correct.
and they get to, people would say that those who are in the back office would say that they get to enjoy all the sales incentives and the trips and all that stuff, but they
There
are
are
the ones who
pressures
are
of it.
measured by, yeah, who are measured by the numbers every day, every moment, and they are in the market. They are the ones who are bringing in the bread and butter, and they are the ones who have to get the wallet share of the customer. So every role has its own challenge. You get even a person who's sitting in the call center, right? I mean, the person doesn't even know why the system is not working or why the customer is having a issue or whatever, but he has to handle all bear the brunt of the customer's reactions. So,
Yeah, true,
I
true.
mean, every role has its own,
Very,
positives and negatives. Yeah.
very true, very true. Okay, now that brings to another point. Okay, brings us to another point. Since you talked about sales role, in certain cases, I have seen CDOs, okay, also responsible for the actual business function. Okay, so that means uh, generating revenues through digital channels and fulfilling, obviously that demand. Okay, by providing the necessary products and services to the end customer. How often does that happen, or do you think? I mean, do you first is that do you think CDOs are ready for such kind of roles, and how often? I mean, how often have you seen these kind of uh, you know roles where CDO is also not only responsible for the technology aspect of digital business, but actually carrying out the business
See, again, I
himself
mean,
or herself.
yeah, again, I would believe that it is more to do with the skills of that individual rather than the roles going together. Uh,
Okay.
the reason I'm saying this is because uh, revenue generation is revenue generation. Okay.
Yeah.
If your traditional sales head is not able to leverage the digital channels adequately, then you are looking for an option, first of all.
Hmm.
Okay. Otherwise, all the sales should lie with one person. You
Very
know.
true.
So that's the first thing. Second is, if the digital head, the chief digital officer, is capable of generating business revenue, and you believe that he has now enough bandwidth with him to handle that role, you would offer him that particular aspect, right? I mean, but otherwise, I mean, transformation by itself and revenue generation by itself, I don't see them to be a natural fit. They are two different roles being done by one person who's capable of doing it, who has the bandwidth to do it. Great, absolutely wonderful. And the sales head doesn't have the bandwidth or the wherewithal to handle digital sales. So it is not a, I mean, it's not necessarily a common scenario.
Okay. I think it makes sense. I mean, not necessarily. Sometimes what happens, I mean, as we've seen in insurance, for example, particularly in life insurance, the overall revenues generated, through digital channels is very less compared to, let's say, the overall new business income for the company. And in such a scenario, even it may be possible that the sales head may see this as a nuisance, you know, which could
Absolutely.
be a unnecessary uh, digression of his focus. So from that perspective,
Correct.
also it may be given to a separate
Correct.
person. Okay, so I think more or less we in today's discussion, in today's episode, we we discussed CIO CTO roles, what conventionally they have been, the new role of CDO in terms of what the actual rules and responsibilities, what are the challenges associated, by having this kind of structure within the organization, and how such challenges can be managed. Okay, by the CEOs when they establish these kind of rules. So do you want anything to add, or we can conclude for today, and then of course we'll meet in our next episode.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, we have covered almost everything with regard to this particular role and the value that this role brings to the organization. Um, I would only repeat that organizations are of different maturity levels and scales and complexity. So, I mean, the structure would depend upon the specific needs of the organization, uh, and we have seen CDO roles being defined differently in different organizations.
True, true. It's horses for courses essentially. Yeah. On this note, so we conclude, in today's episode, and we'll meet again in our next episode. Thank you.
Thanks, Vinay.